All right, everybody, welcome back. We are diving in. This is an instructional video on how to use my CMT, the Center Management Tool. You can find it in the treasure chest to determine the feasibility of a program. So this is the how-to. It's the simplest version of this we have. You can plug in however many classrooms you like, however many staff you like, hours, rates, and variables, as well as profit and loss. This tool can help you build a budget for your current program or future program without replacing any of your current software. All right, so jump in with me in the home office as I break this down for you. You can find this in the treasure chest and use this to determine feasibility. I'm using it for an expansion program that I'm working on currently, taking our program from 75 license capacity to 190. So this is what I'm using for our expansion, and I'm using it across the county on another program as well to help them look at their program, which is close to 180 to 200 kids, depending on how they set it up. So check it out. Hope you enjoy it. It's good stuff. All right, welcome. Hey, this is going to be a training on taking our CMT, our Center Management Tool, and diving into your program. So I have customized this CMT, this Center Management Tool, so that you can look at your classroom enrollment and you can look at potential revenue. You can enter your own rates in there for private pay households. You can enter rates from CCAP or child care subsidized rates, so you can adjust for those rates. You can also anticipate if you're in the rating system and the rates will change from maybe a level 2 to a level 3 or 4. You can add those rates in and anticipate what that will do for your revenues. You can use this for anticipating staff costs. So you can build your staff anticipated budget in here based on their hours and what the wages you'll have for your staff. Take all of this information and it will flow into a profit and loss statement for you, which will help you design your budget. All of this is manipulatable for you. So you can modify your rent, you can modify what you anticipate utilities can be. This is designed for you to determine maybe feasibility of your program. If it's the space for you, the capacity, we can adjust ratios within this. There's so many different features. That's why it's a center management tool, not designed to replace software. If you use ProCare or Core or any other kind of software, you can continue to use that. This allows you to keep literally a pulse on your enrollment of your program. It allows you to project enrollment, to say, how would we be doing if we were at only 70% enrollment? What would it look like if we were at 92% enrollment? What if we participate in CACFP or the food program? What if we don't? It will factor in that. You can modify and watch the percentage of your families that are self-pay versus are on child care assistance. And I'll show you how to adjust that. You can adjust then families that are free, paid, and reduced on the food program, and that revenue will modify for you. So this, in my opinion, is the perfect tool, which is no nonsense, and it will show you projections, again, completely editable by you, projections on what your program may or may not do. This is the tool. All right, here we go. We're going to jump in. All right, so this is our tool for extended hours, early learning center, and simply a table of contents here, which is nice and helpful. I don't use a table of contents, but it exists. And then this also has a waiting list for you, so you can see where you're at on the waiting list. These are fictitious children that we've put on there just to kind of show you how that works. The waiting list main screen is here, so you can add kiddos in here, and you can also grab one of my videos For the waiting list, to show you how to manipulate this, there's tools and tricks on what to do and what not to do. If this is yours and you're going to work with this, the first thing I would do is I would go through and I would just simply delete all the children that are on there to help show you how to lay it out. Okay, and then you can continue from them. The waitlist source is just how we can customize it for you. So if you want to have a different status of the waitlist, if you have different ways that you want to classify your families versus self-pay, CCAP, or unknown, waiting list standards. We have waiting, send an email, communication like I left a message, or WCB, which I love to use for will call back. We can modify the names of classrooms, the colors of classrooms, all of that on here. For me, once that's done, I'm going to hide that sheet. And so I don't have to look at that again because it's never something I use. It's just for customization. Okay. For this example here, we're going to look at our infant room. So this is how we've set up your infant room for you. We have infants A, infants B, infant C, and infant D. And then an infant flex that may be an infant room now, but maybe a toddler room in the future. So we set up all 5 of those classrooms. If you need us to modify that, just let me know. We've set up the ratios here for this center that we're working on at 8 children. So we're going to run with a 4-to-1 ratio for infants in all 4 or 5 of these classrooms. Okay. Our toddler classrooms, the same. We've set up 4 and 5 of these. So we can rename this for you whenever you like, and or you can rename it. It's completely editable. We could call this toddler 1 apples or little apples. Whatever you want to do to rename that, you can do that. And we can change the color scheme. You can change the color scheme of this too. I'm going to get into the budget real quick because that's really what this is about. So if this was a yellow room, you could recolor that so you can identify with the name and the color and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. We have preschool. We have preschool A, preschool B, preschool C, and preschool D. So we have 4 preschool classrooms right now with a capacity of 20. That can change. And then we have a school age classroom right here. This is our simplest management tool, meaning if you look at a typical classroom, let's take this preschool one here. So Kermit is coming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If he's only coming Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'll just put a 1 in those 3 holdings, and that changes my numbers down here. So now I know I have availability for a child on Monday and Tuesday. Okay. If Snow White is only coming Monday and Tuesday, I'd make sure there's not a 1 on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And now I know I have a full-time spot available for a child in this preschool classroom. So this is what I mean by a no-nonsense. Use this to manage your classrooms, okay? And then the enrollment is all going to roll into a final kind of a control panel, a main screen, if you will, with all of your center totals, okay? So let me show you that screen here. So here is our center totals. So we have all of our classrooms from infants to toddlers to preschoolers to our school age. And all of the kiddos that are enrolled, all of those numbers will flow into this center totals page for you. Do you notice that preschool here, preschool A at 20 capacity is now at 19? That's the classroom we were just working with. Let's say you were going to say, well, what if we're at 80%? Well, let's take that classroom down to 80%. So what would be 80% of 20? It would be 16, right? So now that classroom is at 80%. If we were trying to figure out what your revenue is going to be at 80%, we could do this, right? We could take every classroom and enroll it at 80%, okay? And remember that all of that flows in here. So now you can see that preschool is at 16 all the way across the board. And it allows you, whether you have a small center or this big center, to be able to go, okay, Here's what I can see the entire program in one snapshot live. There's more training, but this really is designed to help you anticipate what the different variables might look like. So I'm going to run this all the way back, and I'm going to take it back to 100%. Okay, so now we're back at 20, and let's move forward. All right, center totals. Right now, we have every classroom booked at 100%. We're anticipating this center at 200 children, roughly, for an even number. Capacity is 100%. Let me show you a few other things. You are able to take your own rate, current rate. Let's say before school is $11.50, after school is $11.50, and before and after is $20. You can change this. If yours is $25, you can change it. You could change this to $13 and this to $13 or $133. Okay? So plug in your rates for these different age groups. Okay? So preschool, 40. I'm going to move those back. Those rates we're going to stick with the rates we had in there. Toddler 2, so 2-year-olds are 45 in this scenario. Toddlers are 50, and infants are 55. Okay? And then whatever your current level is, maybe it's a level 1, maybe level 2 or level 4, whatever those rates are, if for your kiddos that are on child care assistance, plug those in here. Okay? These are rates that you can kind of copy and paste. Let's say we're going to anticipate level 1 and 2 because we're starting out. You can copy those in there, paste those rates in there, and everything changes, meaning it'll recalculate everything, whether they're CCAP or private pay. Okay? And I'm going to leave that in there for the moment. I want to keep this simple, but if you're anticipating, let's say 60% of your program is going to be child care assistance and 40% is going to be private or self-pay. You can go into a classroom. We're going to stay in this one classroom right now. If you'll see here in column K, there's an X here. So X is going to represent child care assistance, or in Colorado, CCAP. Okay? So there's an X there because Kermit is CCAP. And so when a child enrolls, you can simply put whether they're CCAP or self-pay, and it will grab the different rates that you've put in here. So if they're self-pay, it's going to be 40. If there's a Y in this box, okay? If there is an X in this box, like Perry the Platypus, so an X there, this tool will grab this rate of 27. It's that simple to be able to determine whether they're self-pay or CCAP. The other element is our food program. So here, CACFP for the food program, but we can simply determine that if they're self-pay, we might suggest that they are C, which we use in our program to symbolize someone that is not qualified, their income's over the income threshold to qualify for free and reduced lunches in the school program. We get paid the same, but for Perry, we might determine that their income is very low, so it's in that A category, and this will help us determine how much we're going to get paid for our food reimbursement, right? I average that if a child eats 3 meals a day and they don't qualify, their income's too high to qualify for free or reduced, we'll get about 98 cents per day if they eat 3 meals. If they are free or reduced, I'm averaging out, for simplicity's sake, about $6. And if that changes for you or year to year, then you can modify that here really easy. Let's say next year it goes up a little bit. You can put $1 or $2 in there, and this might be $6.25. So that's how you can determine the outcome of your revenue. You can slow this video down and watch it again. And I've got more training on this, but this is really to help you with the budget, getting to budget and feasibility of your program. So hopefully you get some good guidance of what you're getting into. All right, so here we go. if I scroll down a little bit, this is going to show me that your center is at 100% capacity right now. And that based on this model, there's 37.5% self-pay and 62.5% CCAP or child care assistance. That number changes if you go in and modify this. Let's say all of your kids in this classroom, preschool classroom, are self-pay. So I'm going to change all those X's to Y's, which I did. And let's say all of these kids are self-pay. If you go back to student totals, wow, we just changed it to like 50-50. And that literally is going to change the anticipated gross revenue accordingly, right? All of those kids, this program is going to say, oh, well, I've got more kids in this self-pay column. It's really important you understand this because in Mesa County, if you're on one side of the county, you're going to have 70% self-pay. If you're on the other side of the county, you're going to have 70% with child care assistance. And this is how I could determine if I want to have a program in the middle or on the right or on the left, I can anticipate those lower rates for self-pay, lower rates for child care assistance versus higher rates for self-pay. So that's where this is important. This also will track for us paid versus free and reduced. I've got to maintain 25% free and reduced in order to qualify for contracting with the food program. So this scenario is 50-50, right? Our self-pay is over here. A, B, and C. A is free, B is reduced, C is paid. Let's say all of these, let's say it swings the other way, and these are all A, and these are all A. Remember I was 50-50 a second ago. And these guys are all have child care assistance. Okay, so now I've really altered this. So I've got all these kiddos on A for free in the food program. And then I go to my center totals. Oh, I'm still at 50. I'm going to put more kids on in the free and reduced category here. Okay. And more kids on CCAP or child care assistance. Now I'm going to jump over to my student totals again. And so I'm starting to increase the amount of CCAP, which is coinciding with the amount of free and reduced. Got it? Let's say I want to get it to 70% so I can see what this program is if I'm going to be in a program with 70% child care assistance or CCAP and then 30% private. So I'm going to keep building up my numbers. Let's just go into a toddler classroom. Number A is free. So I'm going to grab some more kids and put them on the A. And C is families on child care assistance. So I'm going to increase those numbers with some copy and paste. All right, quick timeout. Don't forget, you can find this in the treasure chest. So visit childcarebizconsulting.com. Check it out. It's in the treasure chest along with a lot of other things. So like what you see, jump in, and you can always reach out to me. When you jump on our website, I get a little text message here that says someone's visiting our website. And if you're interested in having a conversation with me, just send me a chat. Jump in that chat. I'll give you a phone number. We can visit on the phone about whatever you're seeing in there. If you have questions before you want to make that commitment into your program and jump in on the CMT and whatever else you find that you feel like would be beneficial to your program. All right, let's get back into some more instruction. Okay. Okay, let's see what my totals are at. Now I'm at 60-40, so let's stop there. You can keep going to get this to a 70-30 model, but let's stop at a 60-40 model. What happens now? I'm still at 100% enrollment. Let me scroll down here, and now this is your projected gross revenue at your current capacity. I'll go deeper in a different video, but I want you to understand you can manipulate your free and reduced, your self-pay and CCAP, and that's how you do it. At current capacity, which is taking into account that 60% is child care assistance and 40 or 39.5% is self-pay, annual revenue at 100% would be $2,077,542.68. This model is considering both self-pay and child care assistance rates. It's also considering the fact that you're serving and getting reimbursement for the food program. I want to jump forward now to payroll review. I've talked about how to manipulate and use this for revenue. Let's look at payroll review because that's your biggest expense, right? So this is simply another tab. I'm going to expand that tab. So Infant A, here are my staff. I've got Patrick, Felix, Minnie, and additional Annie in case I need her. If you have a classroom on a 4-to-1 ratio, group of 8, you're going to have 2 staff at any one time. Let's pretend they're running 10-hour days. Okay, so your first staff comes in at 6:30 to 4:30, and your second staff comes in at 7:30 to 5:30. Let's say your program is 6:30 to 5:30. Okay, so you're at a 1 ratio for the first hour and a 1 ratio to the second hour. Okay, if everybody's working 4 10s, you've got Patrick and Felix doing 4 10s. I need Minnie to work Patrick's 5th 10, and I need Minnie to work Felix's 5th 10, right? So that's how I anticipate needing 3 staff, which gives me 5 shifts of 10-hour days. And you might need additional Annie in there to work maybe, let's say, 5 hours a week for giving breaks, covering at like lunch, because you need to maintain your ratios at when I say lunch, like nap, of course, an infant room nap is all the time, right? But let's say you need her 5 hours a day. So you're going to plug in and budget for additional Annie for 5 hours a day for this one classroom, okay? Let's say you're paying Patrick $16 and Felix $15 and Minnie $13 and Annie $13, okay? So this is what I'm paying right now. I'm budgeting out this program for a projected classroom expense. Patrick does have a child in our program full-time. I can kind of look at in my mind that's going to cost me an additional $3.75 in revenue lost. This is just something to keep in your mind because my true expense for Patrick as an employee is really $19.75. That's not figuring into the math. It's just reminding me that I'm really valuing that employee at a $19.75 wage. Okay, so this formula over here is going to tell me that it's going to take $16 an hour times 40 hours a week, and weekly I'm going to be paying $640. Monthly, that's going to cost me $2,688. And annual payroll for Patrick is going to be $32,128. If you say, well, Patrick's not a $16 hour employee, $17.50, fine. Put $17.50 in there, and now you need a budget, $35,140 for Patrick. That doesn't include taxes. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, or $700 weekly, $29.40 monthly. This is what this does. It just helps you visualize your classroom, each classroom, and what it costs to staff that classroom. This is going to be really critical when we're talking budget, figuring out how much revenue you're going to need to bring in to cover your expenses to see if there's anything left over. And there will be something left over. It'll either be a profit or a loss. But I promise you, there will be something left over. That's why a budget's so important. Let's say Felix is going to be at. This also allows you, I'm not going to get into this now, but it allows you to create raises or anticipate if you gave everybody a 25-cent or a $1.50 raise. I won't get into that now. We're just really focusing on budget. Let's say that Felix is at 16 and Minnie Mouse is at $13.75. Got it? All right. So now it adds up these salaries annually, monthly, and weekly. Okay. And you'll see down here, total payroll expense. Let's stick with annually. Let's go to monthly. Monthly payroll expense for this classroom is $7,056. Got it? Remember that I told you that back over here, if you look at the toddler classroom, infant A, and we've got people on free, we've got some childcare assistance, we've got some self-pay. This model over here is calculating how much revenue is coming in, okay? And it's calculating projected gross revenue monthly is $9,240. So your gross profit only after payroll that's not wipes, that's not cleaning solution, that's not materials. Just after payroll is $2,184 a month. Okay? You got to consider what other supplies you're going to take out of there, right? Annually, $26,000. Let me show you again how this works and why this is so important when trying to anticipate if this classroom is going to create a profit at the end or a loss at the end. Okay? Because then you can strategize to try to reduce your losses or increase your profits. Let's go back to that classroom real quick. Let's say that classroom is only running at 5 kids. You still need 2 staff if you're running a 4-to-1 ratio. We go to payroll review. Guess what? Your payroll's the same, but your revenue dropped, and now that classroom is losing $1,281 a month just after payroll. Remember, you haven't bought a wipe or a bottle warmer or anything like that. Now, if you're running lower with kids, guess what? You can staff down. So now you go, well, I'm going to cut Patrick to 35 hours and Felix to 35. Actually, you'll probably cut Felix to 25. You might not need Minnie hardly at all, and Annie's out. So now we're going to drop the hours of our staffing. So you build your staff schedule. We have that tool also. You build your staff schedule and go, okay, I can cover 5 kids in this one infant room with Patrick and Felix and Minnie, and I'm only going to need this many hours to cover that. This is what my payrolls I can anticipate monthly. Gross profit after payroll, $1,233. Got it? I'm available to help you and work with you on this and help build this for your center, but that's why this is so practical. That's why we call it a center management tool. So you can do this with every classroom, whether there's 3 classrooms or 30 classrooms. I'm going to undo these changes I made, and I'm going to take our program back to 100%. Payroll review, here's all of your other classrooms. Here's a toddler classroom. Here's a preschool classroom. Here's a school-age classroom. Okay. Here's administration. You're going to have administration. And in this scenario, you've got a director, you've got an infant supervisor, a toddler supervisor, a preschool supervisor, a cook, an assistant cook, and Marvelous Marvin, the maintenance man. And Marvin might be part-time, 20 hours. Maybe he's 25 hours a week. Okay, you're able to tweak these a little bit. A program this big, that was dollars. Oh, maybe he's 30 hours a week, right? Maybe your assistant's 35. And all of this flows into figuring out what it's going to cost me weekly, monthly, annually on that administrative portion. What I would recommend is work with your accountant and figure out how much extra it's going to cost, your payroll's going to cost you in taxes, unemployment, FICA, Medicare, Social Security, all of that. And then you can simply add that percentage in here. You can take your total payroll times 0.765 or whatever it might be for you, okay? This is just a gross payroll estimation. And this is everything in a snapshot. This has got our gross revenue minus our gross payroll, so gross profit after payroll. So at 100% in this model, profit $62,000 a month. That's before you pay rent. That's before you buy food. It's before you buy replacement materials for your classroom. Okay, last place I'm going to take you is the profit and loss sheet. Okay, remember this model, we've been looking at 100% enrollment capacity. The variables are what? Self-pay versus child care assistance. And the food program is a kind of a smaller variable, but it is a component here. In this model, 40% of your families are self-pay and 61% utilizing child care assistance, right? If I scroll down, see how that matches our models here? Okay. It's rounding it off a skosh. All right. And so I'm anticipating $820,000 in change. If we call $629 change revenue from self-pay and $1.2 million from child care assistance revenue. From the food program, I'm assuming $179,000 annually in revenue or reimbursement from our food program. This 85%, I'm saying that 85% of our kids will actually eat 3 meals. If that number is lower and you think that number is maybe 70%, you can do that. And now I'm anticipating only 70% of our kids are eating breakfast, lunch, and snack. So again, it's an estimation. This is not designed to replace your bookkeeping. Please be clear with that. Whether you're using QuickBooks or your accountant is doing all your bookkeeping and accounting for you, that should be housed there. This is a projection model, okay? 70% is probably closer than 85% of your children eating all 3 meals. So let's go with 75. So now if I add up, this adds up for me, $820,000 self-pay, $1.2 million of child care assistance, and $158,000 annually. These are annual projections, totaling $2.2 million in revenue. I'm going to account for $2,000 of lost money when returned checks and refunds. So I'm saying minus $4,500 in refunds. It might be more. If it is more, put more in there. Let's say you're thinking, well, hopefully not $50,000. Let's say $5,000. Put the minus in front. There we go. And maybe you're thinking $3,500. So these are numbers that I've extrapolated from my preschool, and I've kind of inflated them based on the capacity of this preschool, right? So my preschool is 75 licensed. This is 200. So I've multiplied it times 1.75, something like that, because it's almost 3 times as large. Figure out what you're going to, okay, so total income, 2.2. This is just bringing my expenses to the top. But advertising, how much is it going to cost you for advertising? $1,000, okay. What about fuel? Are you going to have fuel expense? If you're driving to the grocery store in a company vehicle, right, purchasing fuel, if you're going to have it all delivered, you might not have any fuel expense. Mileage reimbursement as an owner. Are you going to have automobile expense? Credit card processing fees, you can put your own numbers in here. This is where you begin to build your own budget. What are you anticipating? I like the fact that this is being extrapolated from a child care profit and loss statement so that you might not be thinking about some of these different categories. Business licenses and permit. What about charitable contributions? I don't have any earmarked. But if you say we're going to contribute $2,000 a year in contributions, and plug it in here. Okay? Classroom supplies, I've got $15,000. This is annually. You're like, oh my goodness, $35,000. And you increase that number in there. You determine what you think you might spend in these categories. Education and training for your staff, $2,500. Maybe you're like, I'm going to put $5,000 aside for that. Equipment rental, are you renting a copier? Leasing. What are your food costs going to be? I've estimated $61,500. You got to figure out what your food costs might be on average per child and then extrapolate from there. I've taken a guess. That's all I've done. Insurance, wild guess, but you can get with your insurance agent. I use Matthew Borg or MB Insurance here in Grand Junction. I've used Cherry Creek in Denver, Colorado for years. There's lots of companies that specialize in insurance. Get a quote from them. So I've put in some money for general liability and workers' comp. Okay. Are you going to have health insurance for your staff? You could put that in there, although that wouldn't fall under payroll expenses, truly. Janitorial expenses, how much are you going to put in there? Okay, you get the idea. All right. Here is employment. So all of that employment is being pulled into this P&L for you. So I've got employee wages, I've got officer wages. Are you going to budget a salary for yourself? I budgeted $50,000 in there for you. I've got FICA and Medicare. Whatever this percentage is, figure that out. Work with your accountant. I plugged in 7.65%. If your accountant says 7.95, put that in there, and guess what? It just took 7.95 times these two times employee and employer wages. And you can double check formulas. There's formulas buried all over the place in here. So be aware if you're typing in a cell that has a formula, if you do that, it will change the integrity of the outcome of your numbers. Okay? So you'll want to watch a few YouTube videos from some other professional on Excel and Google Sheet formulas. Okay? You don't have to build them. They're already in here. But simple ones you can learn. Federal unemployment, what percentage is that going to cost you, state, and so forth. So here's an example. Again, really important to plug in the numbers from your account that they give you and current numbers. Professional fees, accounting, rent. What's your rent going to be? I budgeted here at $8,500 a month for this center. Okay, $102,000 a year. Okay, so in this model, figure out your utilities. Call the utility company and see what they cost at that facility that you're looking at renting. Try to get the last 12 months so you can get an estimate on your utilities. Okay, so total expenses that I've added up is $1.6 million. You subtract $1.6 million, we just duplicated that up there just so you can kind of see that up there. You wouldn't do that on a P&L sheet. But I can see here I've got 2.2 in total income, 1.6 in expense, which gives me, remember I promised you'd have something left over, either a profit or you'd have left over a loss. And this is a profit of $622,000. I challenge you to run your program at 100%. Once you don't get paid for one child one day, that's less than 100%. What's great is that this allows you to go, well, what if I'm at 88%? And it takes everything from every classroom and it changes your revenue to 80% enrollment capacity. And guess what? At 88%, my revenue dropped from 2.2 million to 1.9. I didn't change my expenses because my expenses still stayed the same. My gross profit dropped from 622 to 355,000. What if I'm at 85? My revenue drops again. What if I'm at 75? It drops again down to 187. Let's create a little bit different spread on this. Let's say we go from 88 to 75 here, and we want to drop this again. Do you notice that the numbers at the bottom are different though? Under both these scenarios, 75 and 75. The reason is because when you get down to, when you start getting to a certain point of under enrollment like 75, you're probably going to be staffing a little bit less. And so here, I've got an element in here where you can say, I'm going to be at 95% staffing. In this case, at 75%, it's just an educated guess. I have this model at 90% of my payroll expense. So 90% of where I would be at 100%. Okay? So now these numbers are matching. Does that make sense? Again, when your enrollment goes down, your staffing needs are going to go down a little bit. They're not going to go down from 100 to 90%. Maybe not 85%, but when you get down to 75%, yeah, you're not going to hit your morning ratio at 45 minutes in, might be an hour and 15 minutes in. So you're going to save 30 minutes of that staff, and that'll multiply, okay? And let's say you go, well, what would we look like at 60% enrollment? Well, before we look at the bottom number, we know that at 60% enrollment, our staffing needs are going to go down even more, right? Maybe your staffing needs are at 80%. Let's see what that does to our numbers. Based on the same other expenses, now we're losing $25,000 a year. So now maybe you go, well, I'll just take a pay cut. Okay. And now you're at $7,000 or pretty close to break even. Okay. Maybe you say, I don't want a pay cut. Okay. Then you go back to your payroll and go, where does my payroll need to be at 60%? What does that look like? When creating a budget, you're going to be guessing. You're going to be making some educated guesses, and you can involve experts in the field, involve your bookkeeper or your accountant, other professionals that can help anticipate budgets. You might have to here's another one too. You might go, well, at 60%, I'm not going to need all that food. So break it down at daily cost to feed a child, and then look at the number of children I'm anticipating, and then add that extra on there, whether it's 10 or 15% of that variable. So you can be feeding your staff, or for when your enrollment grows. But maybe at this point, your food costs are only at $10,000, and maybe your city market or grocery store costs are at $15,000. Okay, and all of a sudden those numbers will start to go up. Remember, we kicked our salary back up to 50 because we didn't want to take a pay cut. Well, you may have to at the end of the day. I'm going to undo a couple things here, because what I want to show you is that food costs are sitting out here. So this 10,000 is being copied all the way across to here, and to here under these different models. So there is a formula here that says copy this formula over here, okay? So if you get in here and you start making some changes inside the formula, I'm going to leave this back at 12, and you go, well, I want to see what I'm at 60%, and I want to go 8,000 here. I might just recommend you just color that cell as a reminder to yourself that that's been modified, okay? That cell has been modified individually by you. Again, there's help, but there's a lot of factors, so there's got to be a lot of smart pieces to this spreadsheet. But I can simply copy that 20,000, put it back over there, and magically it's back to 12,000. I'm not going to get too much into there. If you're intimidated by this, that's okay. You should be, because if you're looking at a program that could either make you $600,000 or let's say $355,000 a year, and that same program you could be losing $25,000 a year, then it should be intimidating. And we fix and work with intimidation with knowledge, and we can work on that knowledge. And the next best thing is experience, and either you have it or you can gain it over time and get it from others. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope that this is helpful in trying to figure out what that, how do I create a budget? How do I see if this program is going to be profitable, or maybe it's going to lose a lot of money? There's so many factors in here, and now you can play with things like rent. You can play with food costs. You can adjust the portion of private to pay families to families on child care assistance. You can adjust your rates. You can do all of that in here. You can adjust your CCAP rates. You can make all these modifications to really figure out what you're getting yourself into. And then it's a matter of troubleshooting and figure out how to get yourself out of that negative $25,000 deficit to how do I make that a positive $25,000 deficit? Maybe you need some subsidies from your county, or you do employer base and they subsidize your rent for you based on enrollment. There's all kinds of ways that you can troubleshoot taking a program, a center that is not profitable, to make it profitable. Okay, guys, I hope you found some good stuff in there. If you see something that you love, let me know. Drop it in the comments. If you see something you would like to see different or changed or modified, let me know. Let me know so I can get in there, make some modifications. And I love learning from others that have a different insight, better insight. We're all learners, teachers and kids. So here we go. All right, guys, have a marvelous day. Thanks for watching.